subconscious material that we've not yet dealt with on an individual level, and by it coming out on a collective level, we then get to experience a projection of our individual disharmony by seeing it outside ourselves. And this is a very important point. That's how we typically heal. It's very rare until you become really advanced on the path of enlightenment. It's very rare to experience a true awareness of your subconscious material by yourself in meditation or just in contemplation. So what happens is, if you are a person who is habitually self-denying and lacking in self-esteem, do you honestly think that means you're going to attract someone to yourself who is going to just love you and treat you wonderfully?
No.
No.
Not the way it works. It's the other way around. We are, on a subconscious level, pathologically driven to keep seeking out the embodiment of our shadow. And we attract these people into our lives specifically so that either they rise with us in vibration or we reach a point in which the lesson is that we have to get away from them. And they will typically embody our shadow aspects in an exaggerated way so that it's worse than how we are. And these people will typically drag us into great levels of despair. We actually refer to this as the dark night of the soul. So what's happening is, you're looking at, if you look at the world political stage as if it was a movie or a narrative, as we call it, storyline, there is ever increasing tension in the narrative right now.
Yes.
It's looking really, but I don't see it as bad. I see actually that the more people finally become outraged, which I'm not, but there's a necessary stage you have to go through where you are. The more outrage is formed in the collective consciousness, the less tolerance there will be for these behaviors to continue. And so now you're seeing subpoenas being handed out like Pez dispensers.
Right.
And it's not going to stop. We're going to see a revolutionary change in how things are being dealt with on the planet before 2012. The media itself is going to have to perform an act of contrition and begin acting more responsibly, because otherwise it's going to lose their advertisers, because the people in the board of directors on these corporations is going to say, well, I don't want to be pouring our advertising dollars into something that's obviously hypocritical that everybody can see is not telling the truth.
Uh-huh.
So let me ask you a question. So as we approach this 2012, will there be like a separation of consciousness, like there's a separation of classes where the more enlightened ones will be around the more enlightened ones and the ones that aren't will be around them?
Well, I'm aware that starts sounding like evangelical, Bible-thumping.
I understand.
And
or
that's
is everybody going to evolve at the same time and at the same rate?
Well, it doesn't really work that way. There is a certain presence of mind to be said for things like the 100th monkey effect, in which in Japan there were these islands where they threw sweet potatoes down to feed these monkeys, but as the sweet potatoes hit the ground, they'd be covered with sand. The monkeys couldn't eat them. And after 100 of the monkeys on the various islands discovered how to wash the potatoes, when that critical number was reached, suddenly all the monkeys overnight, it was like a Windows update that downloaded into everybody. They all were able to wash these potatoes simultaneously, out of nowhere. So it seems as if, to a certain degree, there are behaviors and characteristics that will download into people's minds as enough people become aware of that, and that would kind of be your, the collective idea, a more socialist idea of ascension. However, the universe doesn't just hand out party favors if you haven't done the work to earn them. And so we are in a situation on the planet at this time in which people are being asked to draw upon their internal resources and find the love and the compassion, the service for others. And that's what really the Earth School is about. There's a lot of people here who don't need that level of tuition. There's approximately anywhere between 60 to maybe even 120 or even 200 million souls on the planet who are wanderers, and that means souls of an angelic essence who have volunteered to be human, knowing that they would give up their identity and forget who they are and go through one or even a series of human lifetimes for the sole purpose of trying to up-level the vibration on the planet. And so most of the people that are listening to this, who would bother to listen to this, are these angelic souls. And so they're not going to need the basic level of information about, I need to be more loving. I shouldn't be manipulating, controlling people. But the basic level that you need to reach to be able to graduate into fourth dimension, which is where the Earth is going, fourth density as it's called, is basically just to have a higher priority on being loving towards people than on manipulating and controlling them. And believe it or not, that's a very difficult thing for the average person on this planet to achieve. And the reason why it's so difficult is, again, because there's all this shadow material buried in the subconscious mind, which is not something that people have conscious awareness of. It's something that stays locked up in this sort of realm in which people say, no, I'm a good person. I've never abused my kids. I never hit my kids. Well, you don't realize, psychological abuse that you might have done. People have had an affair or something. They block it out of their mind. They say, no, I love my wife. And so there's these things that we do that are intrinsically self-serving, in which we're manipulating others for our own benefit. And then we wallpaper over that as if it's not there. So the 2012 thing is not a cosmic light switch that's flipped in 2012. It's an active process that we're going through now, which is essentially fomenting the self-realization. It's forcing us into it, whether we want to see it or not. But bear in mind that if we don't choose to change, we don't automatically get shipped into a higher level of vibration. Now, there are some people on the planet who are also pursuing a negative spiritual path, a service to self path, and that is sort of like your Illuminati or New World Order type. And they also may be able to graduate into fourth density negative, which is sort of like the equivalent of dropping into a Hellraiser movie. And that's not any place I'd want to go, but there are some people who choose that. By the time you get up to the sixth density level, you can't really maintain the negative path for very long. Your soul literally dissolves. The universe itself is biased towards the positive, but it allows for the negative to exist because in the early days of the universe, we didn't have a negative path. We only had unity. And it was actually really bad in terms of the level of evolution. People were not growing and accelerating because there was nothing to work against. There was nothing to strive against. So we have a situation here where evil was created as part of the Creator's will to essentially inspire us to grow and to change and to evolve. So what's happening right now is that it appears as if really terrible things are happening on the planet, very scary things. But what that's doing is it's increasing the sense of jeopardy. Now that I'm working in Hollywood, I'm really deep into the meat of how these films are being constructed on the inside, all the stuff that you're not supposed to know about inner symbolism and secret metaphor and all this stuff. And the number one thing that you'll hear in an insider conversation about film and writing a good film is we need to have a mounting sense of jeopardy, right? And that's how you construct a good story. That's what it's all about, is increasing jeopardy, which is then resolved at the end of the film somehow.
Which keeps you involved in the movie.
Exactly. And so what's happening is that you have all these people who have been locked up in narcissism and a lack of self-reflection, distracted by the mundane pleasures of physical existence, locked up in their own world in which they have a box that they live in, a box that they're entertained by. They go to work in a box. They work in a cube farm, one cubicle at a time. It's all boxes that are four walls shielding us from other people. And when there is the perception of a unified threat and a vehicle of communication, which is the internet and email and instant messaging, cell phones and all that, people have an opportunity to break down their sense of isolation and say, my God, you need to see what's happening here. It pulls you out of this chicken McNugget life and into sort of a, wow, we're all in the same restaurant here,
Well, we
don't like what's being served.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And my question then is, because with this radio show, we're doing the World Joy meditation in which people from